top accolade global news updates. I am Soibifa Jakarich. The United States has proposed a rival draft United Nations Security Council resolution calling for a temporary ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war and opposing the major ground offensive by its ally Israel in Rafah. The move comes after the US signaled it would veto on Tuesday an Algerian-drafted resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire over concerns it could jeopardize talks between the US, Egypt, Israel, and Qatar that seeks to broker a pause in the war and the release of hostages held by Hamas. Until now, Washington has been averse to the word ceasefire in any UN action on the Israel-Hamas war, but the US text echoes language that President Joe Biden said he used last week in conversations with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It would see the Security Council underscore its support for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza as soon as practicable based on the formula of all hostages being released, and calls for lifting all barriers to the provision of humanitarian assistance at scale. To pass a resolution needs at least 9 votes in favor and no vetoes by the US, France, Britain, Russia, or China. The US draft text determines that under current circumstances, a major ground offensive into Rafah would result in further harm to civilians and other further displacement, including potentially into neighboring countries. Israel plans to storm Rafah, where more than 1 million of the 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza have sought shelter, prompting international concerns that an assault would sharply worsen the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The UN has warned it could lead to a slaughter. The draft US resolution says such a move would have serious implications for regional peace and security, and therefore underscores that such a major ground offensive should not proceed under current circumstances. Washington traditionally shields Israel from UN action and has twice vetoed council resolutions since the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas militants, but it has also abstained twice following the council to adopt resolutions that aim to boost aid to Gaza and called for extended pause in fighting. The boarding of a Taiwanese tourist boat by China's Coast Guard near sensitive frontline islands triggered panic among Taiwan's people, a government minister said on Tuesday. But Taiwan military added it was not planning to get involved. Taiwan, which China claims as its own territory despite the island's rejection, has been wary of efforts by Beijing to ramp up pressure on Taipei following the election last month of Lai Ching-te as president, a man Beijing views as a dangerous separatist. China announced on Sunday that its Coast Guard would begin regular patrols and set up law enforcement activity around the Taiwan-controlled Kinmen Islands, following the death of 2 Chinese nationals fleeing Taiwan's Coast Guard, having entered into restricted waters too close to Kinmen. 6 Chinese Coast Guard officers on Monday boarded a Taiwanese tourist boat carrying 11 crew members and 23 passengers to check its route plan, certificate and crew licenses. Leaving around half an hour later, Taiwan's Coast Guard said Kinmen is a short boat ride from the Chinese cities of Xiamen and Quanzhou and has been controlled by Taipei since the defeated Republic of China government fled to Taiwan in 1949 after losing a civil war with Mao Zedong's communists who set up the People's Republic of China. Kinmen is home to a large Taiwanese military garrison, but it is Taiwan's Coast Guard which patrols its waters. Taiwan Defense Minister Chiu Kuo-cheng told reporters at Parliament that to avoid a further rise in tensions, the military will not actively intervene in the incidents. Kinmen was the site of frequent fighting during the height of the Cold War, but is now a popular tourist destination, though many of its islets are heavily forfeited by Taiwanese forces and remain off limits to civilians. China says it does not recognize any restricted or banned zones for its fishermen around Kinmen. Lockbit, a notorious cybercrime gang that holds its victim data to ransom, has been disrupted in a rare international law enforcement operation. The gang and US and UK authorities said on Monday. The operation was run by Britain's National Crime Agency, the US Federal Bureau of Investigation, Europol, and coalition of international police agencies, according to a post on the gang's extortion website. An NCA spokesperson and a US Department of Justice spokesperson confirmed that the agencies had disrupted the gang and said the operation was ongoing and developing. Officials in the United States, where Lockbit has hit more than 1,700 organizations in nearly every industry, from financial services and food to schools, transportation and government departments, have described the group as the world's top ransomware threats. The post named other international police organizations from France, Japan, Switzerland, Canada, Australia, Sweden, the Netherlands, Finland, and Germany. Lockbit and its affiliates have hacked some of the world's largest organizations in recent months. The gang makes money by stealing sensitive data and threatening to leak it if victims fail to pay an extortionate ransom. Its affiliates are like-minded criminal groups that Lockbit recruits to wage attacks using its digital extortion tools. Ransomware is malicious software that encrypts data. Lockbit makes money by coercing its targets into paying ransom to decrypt or unlock that data with a digital key. Lockbit was discovered in 2020 when its eponymous malicious software was found on Russian-language cybercrime forums, leading some security analysts to believe the gang is based in Russia. The gang has not professed support for any government, however, and no government has formally attributed it to a nation state. On its now defunct dark website, the group said it was located in the Netherlands, completely apolitical and only interested in money. When a Chinese rocket malfunctioned shortly after launch in April 2020, destroying Indonesia's $220 million Nusantara 2 satellites, it was a blow to the archipelago's efforts to strengthen its communication networks. But it presented an opportunity for one man. Elon Musk, the owner of SpaceX, the world's most successful rocket launcher, seized on the failure to prevail over state-owned China Great Wall Industry Co. as Jakarta's company of choice for putting satellites into space. The Chinese contractor had courted Indonesia, Southern Asia's largest economy and a key space growth market, with cheap financing, promises of broad support for its space ambitions, and the geopolitical heft of Beijing. Nusantara 2 was the second satellite launch awarded by Indonesia to CGWIC, matching the two carried out by SpaceX at that time. Since its failure, SpaceX has launched 2 Indonesian satellites, with a third set for Tuesday. China has handled none. SpaceX edged out Beijing through a combination of launch reliability, cheaper reusable rockets, and personal relationship marks nurtured with Indonesian President Joko Widodo. Following a meeting between the two men in Texas in 2022, SpaceX also won regulatory approval for its Starlink satellite internet service. The SpaceX deals mark a rare instance of a Western company making inroads and in Indonesia, whose telecommunications sector is dominated by Chinese companies that offer lower cost and easy financing. The success came after Indonesia resisted US pressure to abandon its deals with Chinese tech giant Huawei, citing its dependence on Beijing technology. The tussle between SpaceX and China offers a window into a much larger battle to dominate a rapidly expanding space industry. Ground staff at German airline Lufthansa walked off the job at major airports on Tuesday in their second strike this month, raising pressure in wage talks due to continue on Wednesday. Over 100,000 passengers will be affected by the industrial action, which is due to run until 7:10 a.m. on Wednesday, the airline has said. Lufthansa said it could only operate 10% of scheduled flights at the affected airports, which include the country's biggest hub in Frankfurt, as well as Munich, Hamburg, Berlin, Dusseldorf, Cologne, and Stuttgart. The first flights were cancelled on Monday evening. Germany's Europe's largest economy has been hit with a number of nationwide strikes affecting air travel, railways and public transports as workers faced with high inflation demand greater pay. The latest strike at Lufthansa comes after the airline presented a new wage offer for some 25,000 ground staff workers last week. Verdi described the offer as bluntly antisocial. Verdi is demanding a wage rise of 12.5% or at least €500, that is $538.85 more per month over a 12-month period, plus a one-time payment of €3,000 to offset inflation. These high demands have become necessary as Lufthansa's ground staff has lost 10% of its purchasing power in comparison to 2021, Verdi's Reshinsky said. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Tuesday.